Hey, everybody. It is Dr. Wanda Lee and Dr. Noah here from Beyond Your Wildest Genes. Unfortunately, Dr. Mike couldn't be with us today, so we are going to handle it with just the two of us. And this session, we're going to talk about epigenetics. For those of you who've been hanging around a while, you probably remember a bit of our history. We'll recap that a little bit for those of you who are new. And talk a little bit about what that means for you, what that means for us, what that means for health, and a little bit about defining and maybe clarifying some of the confusion around a big sciencey word like epigenetics when it really has a lot of everyday practical applications, and it's what we talk about all the time. So Noah, how you doing?
Great. When I think of epigenetics, I think of a whole host of things. First, I can remember the first time I heard it. It was probably 6 years into chiropractic practice, maybe 15 or so, 14, 15 years ago. And it was really fascinating because at that same time, all we heard about was, the Human Genome Project. And once we mapped out our genes, we'd be able to solve all our health issues because we would know exactly where everything was, what was causing what we needed to do, go in there and snip them, and all those kind of things. And at the simultaneously emerged the science of epigenetics, saying that we're not slave to our genes. When you break the word down, epigenetics, epi means above the genes, and there are, and hop in anytime you want, Wanda. For those of you who aren't quite sure what epigenetics is the genes and our DNA is our roadmap, but there are little tiny chemical markers on our genes that are placed there essentially through our lifestyle choices, and they dictate whether those genes get expressed or not. So all the things we talk about in Beyond Your Wildest Genes, all the things we talk about on our podcast, all the things we talk about in our office on a day in and day out basis, sleep, eating, chiropractic, stress management, so on and so forth, positive mental attitude, gratitude, strong family, community, all those things affect those little chemicals, affect the epigenome, and affect how genes are expressed. So it really gives us an empowered vision of what our health can be by maximizing how healthy our lifestyle is.
Yeah, I kind of think about them as little on-off switches. Like we've got those genes there. There's nothing we can do about that. We inherited the set of genes that we have, but we don't have to turn them on. And we can sometimes turn them off. So it's a lot more control than people think. I think the last stat I saw was somewhere between 10 and 14% of health markers are fixed, and about 86 to 90% are epigenetically controlled as far as they can determine right now. So that's a pretty big amount of health that you actually have an incredible amount of power over. And those little choices that we make that don't seem like they matter because we're just going to be like our mother or our father or our brother or sister, it really doesn't work that way. I don't know about but I got a lot of patients that come in and they're like, oh, well, my dad has diabetes, so I'm going to have diabetes, or my mother had cancer, so I'm going to have cancer. Like those kind of thinkings, because that was based on that genome thought that, if we had these genes, then we were going to end up there. And what they're saying is that really we learn our lifestyle habits from our parents. So we tend to eat like them and act like them and maybe even work like them. So it's those things that make it look like we're inheriting it from our parents, when really we're just learning how to live from our parents. So that's kind of scary and empowering and wow, all at the same time.
It's the debate of nurture or nature is really no longer a debate, right? It's both. We know that now for sure. To drive this point home further, I always like to talk about maybe the godfather of epigenetics, or the person that really brought it to light, and that's Bruce Lipton. And I think a prerequisite for everybody to read is his book, The Biology of Belief. It was released probably about 15 years ago, but he's really the first person I ever heard talk about epigenetics. And in the book, there's a lot in the book, but he talks about his early years in the late 60s, where he was working with stem cells. Stem cells are those multi-plural cells that can change into nerve cell, muscle cell, brain cell, heart. And he had 3 petri dishes with the same stem cells in each. And all he did was change the medium that those stem cells were floating in. And the one on the left turned into a heart cell. Heart cells, the one in the middle turned into brain cells or nerve cells, and the one on the right turned into bone cells, all because of a different medium. And that's another example of lifestyle. Like, this is the lifestyle of these cells. They had different mediums or different gels or different liquids surrounding them, but it's the same idea for us. Eating right, like we discussed, thinking right, all those things change the epigenome and allows either genes to be switched on, like you said, or switched off. So it's important. Bruce Lipton and this biology, I think, is one of the most important books written literally in the last 20 years. I think it's that important to read.
Absolutely, it's a fave, for sure. And there's lots of stuff on his website and different things like that. And if you're listening, Dr. Lipton, we've been love to have you on. So, by all means, get in touch with us, and we would be happy to clear our schedules to talk to you. Yeah.
We've been trying.
Shameless plug. Had to put that in there. Yeah. So epigenetics, that's kind of where the three of us, so I'm going to speak for Dr. Mike because he's not here and he can laugh at me later, but the three of us kind of thought, well, how can we take this sciencey concept that really is applicable for every single person every single day and take it from that sciencey petri dish down to life? And so we're, trying to translate that into what can you actually do? Because it's not as simple as a switch. It's not like you eat something crappy today and you're going to have cancer tomorrow. I mean, it's not that big a switch. But there are things that we do over time that move that needle from one side to the other. So we started this project, which was at that point called the Center for Epigenetic Expression. And that's a big old mouthful, but it really was what we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about epigenetics, how our genes are expressed, and what we could do about it, and make that science real. Obviously, that word and that whole mouthful is a bit too much. So people were like, "What does that mean? What do you guys do? What does that have to do with me?" And that's where we sort of evolved over the last 5+ years into Beyond Your Wildest Genes, because that really is what we're summing up here. Is we want to go beyond your genes, and in your wildest dreams, what could your health look like, and how can we translate that into your lifestyle? So
yeah, I think, like you said, Center for Epigenetic Expression sounds kind of good. It looked kind of good on paper, but it was tough. It was really tough. Center, it was with the TRE for the Canadian folk too. So it was really like, so it was tough. And, and we had a couple summits already done. We had a couple ebooks already produced. We are building our email list, and we are just about ready to launch our podcast. And somewhere, Mike just came out with Beyond Your Wildest Genes, kind of a play on Beyond Your Wildest Dreams and the word genes. And it just, it worked. It clicked. I think it's one of the most clever names in the health and wellness space. And it portrays us exactly the way we want to, is that everything we teach, everything we talk about, everything we discuss from every project we do is about lifestyle and the proper lifestyle choices to take your health beyond your wildest genes and dreams.
And that's a pretty scary concept for some people. Like, that's the one pushback I think I get, and maybe we all do when we talk about epigenetics, is that people are a little bit apprehensive about having that much responsibility for their own health. It's kind of nice to sit back and think, oh, it's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to be what I'm going to be. My family arthritis runs in our family, and I'm just going to have to accept that at 40, I'm going to start to break down, and that's just the way it is. It's a lot more intimidating to have to think about, well, what if that's not the case? What if it actually is something that I can influence? Maybe not at 100%, but maybe at 80%. How can I slow that down? How can I, ease that switch back, or maybe even prevent it altogether? And that is a lot for some people to hear. And it's easier to put your head in the sand and be the ostrich.
And at the same simultaneously, it's also empowering as well, and that's what our jobs are, right? Is to help people take their heads out of their sand, help them create their big why. Why should they care? Why do they want to eat this way? Why do they want to exercise? Why do they want to be an exercise fanatic? Why do they want to meditate every day? What is their why? And to show them that it's really not that hard. It's great to be responsible. It's great to have responsibility, and it'll result in something fantastic. And it's important. Beyond all of that, it is absolutely necessary to save our healthcare dollars and our healthcare system and everything. This is necessary. Have to, get your feet on the ground stuff that needs to be implemented immediately if we want to be the culture, society, and people that we all can be and need to be.
And the good news is you don't have to be perfect. It's
No,
not a zero-sum game, and that's sometimes the excuse that we can fall back on is, well, I can't eat like that all the time, or I can't exercise all the time, or I can't meditate every day. Therefore, there's no point in me doing it at all. And that is so not true. Every little bit counts. This is a bucket. And so everything we put in the bucket and everything we take out of the bucket add together. So the fewer bad things we put in and the more good things we use to take stuff out, the better our bucket stays. And so it's not a perfection game. You don't have to be perfect. No one is going to be perfect. So thinking about that isn't even worth wasting your time. It's just something that we have to work on a little bit better every single day. And I kind of go with the 80-20 rule. 80% time you do good things, and sometimes you don't. And it works the other way. Like eating that salad one day a week is probably not going to have that big a positive impact on your health if you're eating, fast food the other 6 days. So it's really keeping the balance in the right direction.
Yeah, let me explain to the audience, and I'll be very open to the audience. For 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I was 100% gluten-free, 100%. And over the last year or two, I just decided that once in a while, much less than 80-20, probably 99-1 or 98-2, I'm going to have 3 slices of pizza. Or I'm going to, after a long fishing trip, I'm going to have that with a real bun and a ice cold beer. And I'm going to maybe pay for it, maybe not, but I've just decided that every once in a while I'm going to do that. And you know what? I think overall it's been a pretty positive thing. And if I really upset people saying that, I'm sorry.
But you know what? I think you just hit a really key point there, though, Noah. Like, you're choosing to do that. Like, you're thinking about it. You're making a conscious choice to balance that out and do something like that once in a while. You're not doing it. You're not reaching for it blindly or out of habit or because there's an underlying emotional challenge that you're satiating with food. Like, it's a choice. And I think anything we do consciously like that is okay, because you've looked at the pros and the cons and what's going to happen, and you've managed the factors around it as much as possible. And it's not something you do every day.
Yep. So I don't have too much more to say, Wanley, about this, except that if you have any questions on epigenetics, if you have any questions on living beyond your wildest genes, if you have any questions about the biology belief or Bruce Lipton's book, my biggest suggestion to is get that book, because it's standing the test of time, even 15 to 16, 17 years later. And I think I asked for questions or comments, and I really mean that. We hope that you guys respond, and we hope that we get the opportunity to help and answer some of your questions.
And I hope that, as you listen to some of the podcasts that we do or look at some of the material or the courses that we put out, that over time, everybody can realize that just a few little things can make a huge difference. And empowering yourself really is exciting and rewarding as opposed to scary and cumbersome. So we're here, like we say, to make health simpler. There's so much information out there that people almost get analysis paralysis. There's so much pushing and pulling in different directions, and really that's what we're trying to do here is take that and make it simpler so that you can find those choices that work for you. So thanks everybody for being on with us today, and we'll talk to you again next week. Noah.
Be awesome and never unawesome.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.